So I want to show you I'm sitting here in Honduras after quite a long trip here, traveling across the country, preaching, doing all kinds of things. That's from a couple nights ago, preaching in a big church here in Honduras. God moved, God moved amazingly, powerfully in the meetings. Look at this guy. God touched many people here in Honduras. I had an amazing trip. I'm at the end of it now. Look at the people lined up for the altar call. Quite a fantastic trip. I was preaching again last night. Had a powerful meeting last night as well. I want to show you this. This, you can see, is a 3-story building. And the pastor of the church that I was preaching at last night, he started out 13 years ago with just an empty piece of land. And now he has a big, massive church. And he built this 3-story building that you can see behind me. And part of the building is a missions house where they can host a missions team. They have 2 different rooms, one for men and one for women to stay in. And they have a big, huge facility. And everything just sprung up from pretty much nothing. Let me show you a picture of me and the pastor. There's me and the pastor of the church. And you can see that's a really big church. That's where I preached last night. Powerful meeting. Now look at this. There's me with a little girl. She responded to the altar call last night, wanting God to use her as an evangelist. There were 3 people that came forward. One was a man, if I had to guess, probably in his early 30s. Another was a lady, probably older than him, probably in her 40s, maybe 50s. And then this little girl came up, wanting to be used as an evangelist, that she felt the call of God upon her life to be used as an evangelist. And she's 8 years old. Her name's Esther. And I thought that was very powerful because this is a large church. And she had the courage to come up, feeling God stir on the inside of her to be an evangelist, to preach and reach people with the good news message of the gospel. And so I had to take a picture with her because it was a very memorable moment for me. I'll remember Esther. I may never run into her ever again, but I'll remember her for the rest of my life. I'll remember her face. I'll remember how she was, Esther. 8 years old, coming forward, feeling the call of ministry upon her life to be an evangelist. It's fantastic. Let's see what else. So, I'll show you this. Now, look at the rain This church was a massive building, but it didn't have any walls, which is actually kind of good because, you get a nice breeze. If you're not going to have air conditioning in the building, then I'd rather have it to where you don't have walls, because then you get a nice breeze. If you have a building like this and you put walls up and you don't have air conditioning because the building's so big and you have a metal roof, it just like heats up like a sauna inside. It's almost unbearable. But there's me, and there's the church. And you might be wondering, why is it dark? Well, the the it like started downpouring, like super heavy rain. Look at the rain flowing off of the roof, and it was like like a massive downpour right before I was going to get up to preach, and it kept on triggering the lights and the whole power to go off. So that's why the picture's dark, because the power had went off, and I snapped the picture. And of course, I was thinking a little bit, hey, what is that going to happen when I get up to preach? That like I'll be in the middle of the message and the power just keeps going off. But you know what happened? The power went off here while the band was playing. But as soon as they gave me the microphone, the rain stopped. The rain completely stopped, and the power didn't go out one time while I was preaching. And I probably preached for over an hour. And then if you add in the time that I prayed for people, it would be, add another 30 minutes, so an hour and a half, where the rain just completely stopped as soon as they gave me the microphone. It went from a massive downpour, super loud, on a metal roof like that, tin roof. When it starts downpouring like that, it's so loud. They had a nice sound system, but it almost drowned out the sound system. But as soon as they gave me the microphone, the rain stopped, and it was a powerful meeting. Many people got touched, and the power didn't go off one time while I was preaching. I'll show you the view from the back. I guess it zoomed in a little bit, but see if I can find a different picture. Maybe this one. No. Anyways, it's a big church. Just preaching at another church. See if I can find a better picture. Maybe this one. Of course, I'm in Honduras and I don't speak fluent Spanish, so that's my interpreter. He travels with me from time to time. Great evangelist himself that I'm raising up. On this trip, I had him travel with me. Yeah, so there's the church. A couple nights ago, in Honduras. At the moment, check this out. We just built a brand new church this week that we built deep in the mountains of Honduras. Very rural, very remote, not easy to get to. In fact, you have to cross like 6 rivers to get to that church, and they didn't have a church, so this is the very first church. Made history because it's the very first church in that community. Hi, I see you. I see your comments there. Hi. Of course, right now I'm in Honduras. This is the last day. I'm going to be flying out tonight. See if I can pull up any other pictures. See what that looks like. Oh yeah, that's me in front of, there's the church building. Brand new church deep in the mountains of Honduras. We built the very first church that they've ever had. Making history in the nations. Very interesting. Here's the chief of the village, and we just handed him the keys. Just handed him the keys to his brand new church. Here's the team that built the church. Right there. All those guys helped build the church. Now, many of those guys, most of them, came from a rough background. In fact, many of them spent time in prison, were involved in gangs and caught up in drugs and all that stuff. And now God has got a hold of them, and they're turned their life around. Some of them are still in rehab houses and stuff. But they came out to help build the church. Great group of guys. I got to know many of them, and fantastic group of guys to build a church. When I heard about the project, I really wanted to be involved, and so we paid to have this church built. Look at that. That's the inside of the church right there. Built by, this place is so remote that it's difficult to get materials in. And so the decision was made to harvest the trees from the property itself, from the mountainside there. So all that wood was cut. Now this is pretty amazing. All that wood that you see in the picture was hand cut by one guy with a chainsaw. So it wasn't brought to a mill or anything like that. It was one guy cutting down trees from the mountainside and cutting that square like that with one chainsaw. Let me show you where the church is. That's the mountain. It's deep in the mountains of Honduras. You can see the church building in the very background. There. You can see one of the homes of the people that live there. Right above my shoulder in the picture. And if you can't quite see it that well, you can slightly see it, but that home that you see right above my shoulder, this is an indigenous tribe, so the home is made out of sticks and mud walls. Here they're laying the cement floor for the church. I don't know if you can see this picture that well, but there's me. That gives you a good example right there of the type of homes that the people live in where we built the church. Mud walls, mud and stick walls, thatch roof. And that lady right there, nobody knows for sure how old she is, but she's the mother of the chief of the village. That's the chief's mother. You can tell she's really old. The chief himself looks old. So I don't know how old she is, but she's up there. And she's lived in that house for a really long time. In fact, some of the people that I was working with, they offered to build her a new home, a new house, but she refuses to move from that house. And that house is, you can kind of see in the picture, is leaning to the side. But she doesn't care. She doesn't want a new house. She wants to stay living in her house that she's lived in forever, even though it probably leaks when it rains, and it has mud walls and stick walls. And I heard some animals in there, and so I started asking her. I said, "Hey, what are those noises?" She says she has little ducks that live in the home with her. Here's another picture from the inside of the church. You can see they're laying the cement floor. Of course, that picture is before we put the front doors up. Here's the team eating at the end of the day. We all gathered up in a house, a little way, quite a ways away from where we built the church. A little bit nicer home for that area that had a large kitchen to be able to make food for the whole team, because the team was probably 25, 30 people. That's a little boy from the tribe right there. They hide out in the bushes and stuff. Very shy people. And here's a great picture. Gathered the people all together one particular night around a bonfire. Then I preached to them. Here's that house. Deep in the mountains of Honduras. That's tribal house. A tribe that's been there for a long, long time. People even say they predate the Mayans. Here's earlier in the week, as the construction of the church was going up, the framing of the walls, setting the rafters. Let me show you this. This is where they get their fresh water. Oh, you can't see it that well. This is where they get their fresh water from. It's a spring. You walk down a little dirt path about 10 minutes from the village, and it's a natural spring that comes up from the ground, and they've built this cement wall around 3 sides of it to try to capture the water. So whenever they need water, they walk to this area here and use buckets to get the water out of the spring. Here's me playing with one of the little tribal kids with a balloon. He loved the balloon. Here's one of the ladies here. Oh, you can't see that one. She had a little baby that was only 18 days old, that she was carrying around. 18-day-old baby. here you can see the kind of rivers that we had to travel through. It's all dirt roads, and then you have to drive your vehicles through about 6 rivers to get to the church building, to the tribe where we were working. 6 rivers like that. So you need a 4-wheel drive vehicle. A 2-wheel drive vehicle won't make it. You have to have a 4-wheel drive vehicle to make it back there. There's a very important pastor that I just had a meeting with, and I didn't preach at his church. I just met with him. We talked about some things. He's planted over 21 churches. So he's a very important pastor in Honduras. Planning over 21 churches. I think he's up to 22 churches. Here's the hotel that I stayed at when I first got into the country. Nice boutique style hotel. Very comfortable, nice. Check this out. Check out that organ. That was in a Catholic church, and they have this thing on wheels, and it's like an ancient pipe organ, like portable pipe organ. I never seen anything like that before. It's on, you can see it's on wheels. Massive thing. A portable or movable pipe organ. Yeah, so here's another kind of construction of buildings people live in, kind of out in the area where I was. You can see this building is also made of mud and clay and sticks, but it's a little bit, I guess, nicer, if you want to put it that way. I'll show you the bricks if it shows up on the picture. You can't, it doesn't show. It's off camera. Let's see if I have another picture. No, I don't think so. Anyways, let me show you my hotel room, because I've been traveling all over Honduras preaching like the last 10 days. Then when I get to the last hotel here, they gave me a free upgrade to my room to what they call the presidential suite. So here's the entryway room. Right here, they put me in the presidential suite. They upgraded my room for free. And there's the bedroom. Has 2 beds. Pretty big room. Very comfortable. Here's the bathroom. Huge walk-in bathroom. Toilet in there. And then a massive walk-in shower. Check that out. The shower is like a whole room within itself. You can see it's huge. So that's kind of how I'm ending the trip off. They put me in the presidential suite, which, you know, I mean, it's great. It's it's a great room, very comfortable. But earlier in the week, I was staying out in a very remote area in the hotel. Had no air conditioning, no air conditioning, and in the first morning when I woke up there, they had the water turned off, so like you couldn't even take a shower. So, you yeah, I mean, it didn't matter to me. I'm on a mission, so I managed. It was great. Didn't complain. Actually, because because we were up in the mountains, during the day got hot, but it cooled off at night. So even though the hotel room didn't have air conditioning, it did have a fan, and I turned the fan on, and the temperature drops just enough to where it wasn't too hot. And the first couple nights, I didn't sleep that well, just because the project that we had going on, I was just thinking about and stuff. But the last couple nights, I slept really good there. But that room compared to this room, the presidential suite in the hotel, it's like a night and day difference. So I guess in a way, God's rewarding me, you know, by blessing me with this room because I didn't pay extra for it. They just put me in here. So it's pretty great. Anyways, I just want to show you some pictures from from the last 10 days here in Honduras. Seen God do amazing things. Saw God touch people. I preached to the tribal people, and at a campfire. That was a highlight because there was a major breakthrough there. They actually told me not to do an altar call for people to come forward when I preach to the tribal group because the people are very shy, and they if I make an altar call for people to come forward, they won't do it. They'll just sit there. They won't move. But you know what happened as I was preaching? At first, I gave a call for salvation, and many hands went up. But then I said, I'm going to pray for anybody that wants prayer, and I'll pray for you individually. Well, I didn't ask people to come up, but all of a sudden, people just got up and started coming forward and standing like right in front of me. So, so I prayed for them. I laid hands on them and prayed for them. And that was a breakthrough because they told me before the meeting nobody would come up. But I even called people forward. People just came up. So that was a major breakthrough. That's very powerful, powerful, powerful night. Of course, you could feel God's presence in the meeting there. You know, just out in the open, just around a bonfire. Preached powerfully. I only preached for like 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes tops, and people got saved, and people came forward for prayer. That was a highlight, major highlight of the trip. And then, what else? A couple nights ago, I was handing the microphone at like 12:30 a.m. in a church. That's when I started preaching, 12:30 a.m. And that ended up being a powerful meeting. I didn't get back to the hotel till like 2:30. After preaching and praying for people, massive altar call. Probably about 80% of the people that were there responded to the altar call to come forward for prayer. And then last night was phenomenal. So it's been a great trip. Met a lot of great people here in Honduras. see if I ever come back. You know, everybody's inviting me to come back and stuff. Oh, we'll see what God does. See what happens. Anyways, just wanted to jump on and say hi. Look for videos to be posted on the channel coming up soon. Um, to give you more of behind the scenes. I shot some videos that will give you behind the scenes of what took place, more than what I could share on this broadcast. So if you haven't already subscribed, make sure you subscribe to the channel, because those videos are there's no other videos like it, really. And so we try to capture as much of what God was doing here. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on those videos. We'll be putting them together over the next several weeks and posting them on this channel. So make sure you subscribe. If you like the videos, just give them a thumbs up. That'd help us get them out to more people. I want to show you behind the scenes of what happens on trips like this. And of course, this trip is pretty unique. So, catch up with you later.